Move a little
Should we let
bit
the adverts
closer to
go
Ayo.
first?
No,
Ayo,
no, 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 no.
Ayo,
Oh,
you
is it?
can move in a
Is
little.
it? This is the advert for
I
12,
want to be able to
7:15 now.
see
You've
you.
done the one for. I thought
Okay.
you've done the
Okay.
one.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay.
So already in
Oh yeah. So those are
5
your
seconds.
headphones. Please speak into the mic as much as possible so that we can hear your voice clearly.
Hello.
Yeah.
Okay.
For my case,
Mm,
like this.
let me check.
Lagos, you're welcome. This is Smooth 98.1. It's time for Lagos Talks 981. It's a part of Smooth Breakfast with Ayamara SA.
And Coyote Baker.
Good morning, Lagos. You're welcome. We've got a very special topic we'd like to share with every single person out there that's listening, and we'd love for you to be a part of the conversation. So, if you're new to the show, here's what you can do. You can reach out to us on WhatsApp. Send your messages to 0809 444 0981. I'll say that again, 0809 444 0981. Our primary source where you can reach out to us is on well, via phone lines basically. So you can call us on 0144899981. And also we're streaming live on YouTube because like I mentioned, it is a very special segment.
That's right. Now, talking about special, we have a very special guest with us in the person of Sholape Azazi. Sholape is going to be joining us in the conversation this morning to talk about autism awareness in Nigeria. We had teased that earlier on, saying that we're going to be looking at that for the next few minutes. We want to really break it down and understand what autism is, the spectrum, and some of the things associated with it, particularly for those who might have children with autism or know people with autism or have to relate with people and know how to do it properly. So thank you very much indeed for coming, Sholape.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much for coming.
You're welcome.
Right. So, Sholape, before we go into the conversation as to what is autism and, just give indicators or statistics, signs, I'd like to first ask you why the interest in autism for you.
Okay. I have a 5-year-old on the spectrum,
Okay.
and it's been my driving force, to try to educate people wherever I go, wherever I talk to, because I realized that very few of us in Nigeria are aware of what autism is, or what it really means to be on the spectrum. And a lot of us that do know what autism is a bit carried away with the glamour part of it about, you hear people saying, oh, you have autism. Is that like the accountant?
Mm.
You have autism. Is that like the rain man? You have autism. Oh, okay. I just heard Cody, you just won the show. Is that
Yeah.
autism? Oh, is that what your son has? It's a spectrum. Some kids fare well, some kids are on the end of the spectrum. So it's very broad. And then when you start to see certain behaviors, they say, oh, it's not autism, that child is not well brought up, and stuff like that. And then it just makes me wonder that I think we need to shed a little bit more light on what this is, because it's a global thing. It's not just Nigeria, it's all over. It's the way and manner autism is appearing right now is scary to know that we are not even shedding the spotlight on it in this country.
Mm.
It's very worrisome. Before you know about four people, you hear, oh, my cousin is on the spectrum. Oh, I just met my neighbor
Mhm.
has a child on the spectrum. My this, my dad. And then you wonder, so what are we all doing about promoting awareness, encouraging people, telling people that this is a real thing? How do we relate with people on the spectrum? Is
Mhm.
very important, because we still have that old shaming culture in Nigeria. And the shaming culture has pushed people to lock up their children just because I don't want to be regarded as a bad parent. So they don't take these children out.
Mm.
They lock them up. And then you go to the villages, you see them, they say they are possessed
Mm.
because they are acting differently.
Mm.
I'm different does not make me less of who I am.
Yes.
If you can accept me, I mean, it goes a long way to show that you love me. You've accepted me for who I am. I'll be more interested in showing you that positive part, that part that makes me me. And we can all be the same.
Mm.
If that was the reason, God wouldn't have made us different.
Different, diverse. Thank you very much, Injida. Thanks for shedding light on what propelled you or inspired you to starting or being an advocate for autism awareness in Nigeria? You have a son. He's 5 years old
He's
now.
5.
At what age did you discover that he had autism?
Okay, so my journey is very interesting. My son grew up atypical. He didn't have any issue, developmental issues as a baby. He met all the milestones, and I think at about 18 months, we 15 to 18 months, there was a reduction in number of words that came in, and then by 20 months, he went mute. No word
Hmm.
came out. I mean, this is a child that I had videos of when he was 12 months saying "mama,"
Hmm.
going up, going down, calling everybody's names. I cannot bring myself even right now to delete those videos because it makes me just appreciate how far I have come
Hmm.
in my journey. I mean, I have videos of him doing fantastic, communicating, social integration, all of that. And then he went mute 20 months. And then by the time he came back to talking, it was baby babble.
Hmm.
And I think we were in Dallas at that time. And then we saw his doctor, and then he flagged him down. And he said to me, "Well, I think your child might, have autism, but because you cannot give an autism diagnosis until you're 3."
Hmm.
He said to me, "We have to start to, early intervention is key. So we have to start to do certain things to make sure that your child, get the best out of, the positive outlook of all of this situation." And I remember that we started speech therapy, we did all sorts, and then at 3 years, of course, the 1 year before that 3 years was terrible for me. It was thorough because I know I was spiraling into depression and all that, and then asking all the question, why me? Why this? This is what's happening. And then I just had another baby, and then people were telling me, postpartum depression is real, but I'm like, I'm not even. This is not what's going on. I'm
Hmm.
grieving for the child that I have right now because I mean, I cannot merge the picture of the child that was at 1 year and a half talking and all that to you telling me that this is the reality to which I am facing,
Hmm.
and so, but I just, moved on. And then I remember sitting in the doctor's office at 3 years old, and then they did the diagnosis, and then they said, "Ma, we're sorry to tell you, your son has autism." I remember I broke down in tears and I was
Hmm.
like, wow, and since then, anyways, I
Hmm.
just said to myself, I have to do it. I mean, this is God has called me for a particular purpose. So, this is not the time to sorrow. This is not the time to weep. We came back, we're ready to move with the, reading. And then I realized that, oh, wow, no resources. People are ignorant about what is
Hmm.
going on. Where do we start from? So, ends my advocacy.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. I know it's an emotional journey. Every time you have
Mm.
to go through down memory lane, it must be very emotional. And so we thank you very much for being open and honest. And that's part of advocacy,
Mhm.
sharing your story, telling people how it feels. And there's some people who are listening to you right now who can identify with what you're saying because they've also gone down that route or are currently on that road, on that journey. So now let's come back to what really is autism. You've shared your personal story as a background to the conversation today, and I really thank you for that. What is autism?
Okay, so autism is a developmental disorder that affects children in three prominent areas. We have the speech and communication, we have behavior, and we have social skills.
Right.
Okay. And what are the first signs to look out for in autism or in an autistic child?
Usually, the first sign is no speech, no speech, lack of speech, regression in speech, no speech,
Okay.
and then the odd behaviors. The odd behaviors can be you can see the child is spinning, some of the common odd behaviors that you hear people talk about, though it doesn't apply to everybody. You can have the child is flapping their hands, spinning round. For my son, it was the repetitive behavior. For some children, it's the stereotyped or repetitive behavior. For my son, he would watch a particular movie. He used to watch Frozen then, and he will rewind it to a particular scene. If you let him, he would watch that thing all day. and just be laughing at that thing. So for me, that was his own repetitive behavior. That was,
Mm.
I mean, he did some other odd behaviors, but he didn't do the regular flapping of the hand. So those are the signs, basically.
All right. So you mentioned
First
speech.
signs.
So
Yeah.
signs, speech, that's an obvious one.
Mhm.
And in some cases, lack of speech. So sometimes, like you mentioned, for your son, it was that after a while he stopped speaking
He had
completely,
regressive
and
autism.
then regressive. Okay, all right. So when you talk about regressive autism, and then perhaps I'd like to ask the next thing is the types. So you talk about regressive. Are there other types of
Oh,
autism?
no, 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 no. Sorry, I'm not a doctor or
Okay.
anything, so I won't go into types of autism.
Mm.
I just know that autism is a spectrum. It's a
Okay.
spectrum disorder,
Okay.
meaning that you can either fall on different ends of the spectrum.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, so for my son, he was speaking.
Mhm.
He regressed into autism.
Okay.
It's not that it's a type of autism.
Autism. All right. Thank
Autism
you.
does not have a type.
A
He
type.
regressed into autism. I mean, he regressed, lost the speech. By the time the doctor did, evaluate him, he said, "Your son has autism." So not a type, not a doctor.
Thank you very much for clarifying that.
Thank you.
Now, do you have statistics? I mean, you've worked as an advocate for a while now. Do you have statistics, or what's the situation? I know a number of organizations have come up in recent times to raise awareness. I know an organization that is very big on this, a corporate organization who has put their weight behind this. However, do we have facts, statistics of autistic persons in Nigeria?
Sadly, there are no formal statistics,
Hmm.
but we can estimate.
Okay.
And we can estimate that we have about 1 million children and adults currently living with autism in Nigeria. That estimate is very low,
Okay.
but for now, that's what we can do because we don't do a lot of Nigerians. We don't research. We don't put. I can't remember the last time we took a census.
Hmm.
So for us to be able to have accurate data, we don't have that. We can just estimate.
Okay, if you're out there and you want to send in text messages, now is the time to do so. 0809 is where you can send your messages to. And also, we see this one already. This one
Yeah.
says, "Good morning. I am Dr. Odogun, listening in from Ibadan. Very proud of Sholakwe, my secondary school classmate, for taking up this course. Autism is real. It is often a misdiagnosis. Your advocacy will touch so many lives."
Thank you so much for that encouraging message. Thank you very much. Next message here is a question, and I would say that we're going to get to this very shortly. Very important as well. We're going on a break shortly, but I'll ask this question for us to start to think about. This question here says, interested in knowing more about the family, how the family, sorry, can support parents who have kids with autism. How do we act more patient and adjust our actions to be more understanding? And she's had with other parents and their reactions to her son, and how that's affected them, and how they could have possibly or probably acted better. But this is Lagos Talks 91 here on Smooth 98.1. It's a special. We're looking at autism awareness in Nigeria. We're going to break now. When we come back, Sholakbe Azazi is with us. Right. That was, I mean, I think for a number of people that would be something they'd want to know, because
And
sometimes people react out of ignorance. They don't know, like the parents you talked about, and for a number of parents, I can imagine the number of people who are listening and who are just grateful because they don't have as much courage as you do to
Come out.
come out, speak about it, and advocate particularly and raise awareness. The brand I was talking about, okay, we're still on air, but
I know GT.
yeah, yeah,
Okay.
they're the
I
ones who
am.
do.
I talk on GT show.
Oh, okay,
Yeah,
really.
Okay.
yeah.
Brilliant.
Since I mean I came back, we heard about GT. I came, and for the past 2 years, I've sat on their parent forum talking and trying to say this is it.
There's a network of parents who have children with autism.
Yes.
All
So
right.
yes. So we have a WhatsApp group.
Oh,
Then we have a Facebook page,
okay.
Okay.
and then we support parents.
I'd love for you to mention that because there might be some parents who are listening that would want to
And
be a
that's
part of
part of
it.
what I came to talk about because
Okay.
for me, I think we have to leverage on one another
Yes.
because what I have been able to resolve some people are just starting to resolve it.
Yes.
And so if you hear and say, oh, I used this, I did that, it's
They can
good.
find a way to
You
Mm,
have to have
draw
that
from that
support
too.
group.
mm.
Welcome back, Lagos. Smooth 98.1 is what you're listening to. This is Lagos Talks 981. It's a special today, and Charlotte Azazi is our very special guest. We're talking autism this morning. And just before the break, we told you you can send in your messages to 0809 444 0981.
I'll say the number again so that for those who are listening to us for the first time and would like to ask a question or share experiences, please do send us a message. We'd love to hear from you. The number again is
080.
0809 444 0981. I'll say that, I'll repeat it one more time so that for those, because some people have said that they're not able to catch the numbers as they're reeled out quite fast. So it's 0809 444 0981. We look forward to getting your messages. Okay, so before the break, we had someone speak about support or information for other parents to know how to support families who have children with autism. And leads me to my next question, in terms of societal ignorance and societal and social stigma attached to autism. Is this real? And what kind of stigma or what kind of perception does society have with regards to autism?
Yeah, stigma is real. Societal ignorance is real. And in this part of the world, we tend to fear the unknown.
Mhm.
The unknown, the fear of the unknown cripples our thirst for knowledge because you often hear mothers will whisper to their children, don't go near that child. Don't you know he's possessed? You hear husbands say, I don't know where you got that child from. That child, no child of mine can ever be that way, Or you even hear, you see the parents of the children saying, look, I mean, I go to a place, you behave, your behavior, I can't handle it. And then they say, you know what, I don't even want you to go with me. They lock the children up. You hear of even some mothers will say, you know what, I mean, I, I would send you to my parents
Mm.
area, and then you are better cared for there, as in the shame. But for me, I don't think it's a shame. I mean, we as society, we have that culture of shaming. We would shame people into, oh, don't bad parenting, this, that. But it has acted as an hindrance in helping us understand that the child acts differently does not make him less of who he is.
Mm.
We have to understand that autism is not a basis for stigma, but it's an opportunity to show love, to show inclusiveness, acceptance of the difference that make me and make you, because we are all wired differently. I mean, I can't say because you drink your water straight from the bottle and I drink my water from a glass, that makes me, you know, illiterate or something. It's
Yes.
We're different, and we have to be able to embrace that diversity. And as society, we have to be more open, more welcoming of the, because at the end of the day, they said it takes a village to raise a child.
Yes.
You do not know what of consciousness I am at with my child, but if you are there to lift me up, to help me, when I'm falling, that child would have that love. That child will feel that love. That child will never feel less. That
Yeah.
child will never feel wanting. We will have a holistic child. And until you do that, we cannot even move forward as a society.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for pointing that out.
Also, you mentioned that uh, we should find ways to welcome and also relate with children that are autistic. So I'd like you to elaborate for us. I mean, how can people learn how to communicate with them? How can people learn how to talk to them and
Okay.
interact with them?
First, you have to realize that they are not strangers.
Mm.
They're human beings. They're children like every other child. A typical 5-year old, an autistic 5-year old will still exhibit a typical 5-year old behavior. But the first thing is first, you have to find how the individual communicates. Like I already mentioned, we have verbal kids and, kids that talk and then they have their words, but then we have some that do not have words, but then they can gesture, they can point, find out how they communicate. Each person is unique. Each autistic person is unique. You cannot generalize
Mm.
one mode of communication and say, oh, because I use picture to communicate with Tade today, so that means that Toby also should pictures.
Mm.
What if that is not his way of communication? You need to first find the individual's strength, and then when you find that, you identify his areas of needs, and only then can you start to chat ways as to how to help, to communicate, to teach, to relate with that child.
Are there learning aids or are there special schools in Nigeria for children living with autism? In some, and what have you found, particularly in schools? I'd like for you to touch on private and then public schools, because we also know, like you mentioned, it's not a condition for the rich nor for the poor.
Yeah.
It's not a respect of social status or financial standing, and so it's something we must think about if we have schools that are adapted to accommodate the needs of children living with autism.
Yes, we do have learning centers
Okay.
for children, for special needs children. And then we also have private schools who have special sen they've adopted sen education with their own regular learning. So it's called inclusive learning
Learning.
skills, and so we have that. But sadly to say, some other schools would would parade themselves and say, I have this and that. And that's where our education system come
The
yeah,
Ministry of
yes,
Education.
because they should be able to checkmate such practices, because you have some schools would say to you, oh, we do send education, we do send learning with our private teaching and everything, and then you go there, nothing. There's nothing that supports that child on send education. However,
So when you say STEM education, what's that?
special education needs,
Needs. Okay.
but they will tell you that they do it, they can support you and everything. So you go there and then they don't even know what they've not even been able to identify what that child's needs are, to even say they want to even help that
Help them.
child. So
So that's the private sector. Do you have an idea of what's obtained in the public sector?
sadly no. Sadly
Because
no.
I would like, with regards to the reason I'm bringing this up is that in the private sector, we know that it's specialized. So you
Mhm.
pay the money and you could possibly get the
Get the
service.
service.
Mhm.
However, we're still grappling with education, standardization of education in Lagos, in Nigeria. And so to imagine that they would also have a specialized service, which is important because you owe it as a duty of care to your citizens,
Mhm.
all ages, all needs,
Mhm.
all learning needs, their needs. So it's important that we start to raise the awareness. Now, talking about raising the awareness, we can't but touch on lobbying government to create either policies or, like we mentioned, send education in these schools to ensure that they are meeting and catering to the needs of children with special needs.
So
How do
don't
you
get me
advocate for
wrong.
that?
There's a SEN education,
Okay.
yes, but who is evaluating it
All right.
is the issue. Because like I said, you say, oh, I do, I there's because there's a school for special needs that I think teachers go and then train to be specialized and then get certificate. But the issue is, how are they implementing these things that they've learned?
Mm.
How are they putting it into practice in the classrooms? Who is checkmating these practices in the classroom? That's where the also, it's not enough to put down policies. We have to be able to evaluate this effectiveness of these policies. Are they working? Are they realistic? How can we tweak it to make sure, because we cannot pull what is obtainable in the western world and come and apply it here. We
Mm.
have several environmental factors that would affect it, would either make it work, make it a failure. So we should be very careful about, we saying, oh, okay, we have this, we have that. How practical are these things that you have on ground? And you said to me, how can government, they need to put more policies. Yes, I know their policies, but they should look at, evaluate those policies on ground and
Mhm.
work on those policies to be sure that, it's getting the citizens are getting the best
Best, yeah.
out of these policies.
Thank you very much. We have a load of questions. I hope you're ready.
Oh wow.
So,
Oh.
it's Lagos Talks 91 Natural, and so we encourage our listeners to send in messages. If our phone lines were up, we would have actually taken phone calls as well, but we're interacting mainly or primarily via our WhatsApp channel. Again, the number to send your message to is 0809 444 0981. Come with your questions, come with some of the things you've heard. Let's debunk some myths, ask about, because we want to learn this morning. So we have this comment here. It says, I read somewhere that eating coconuts can increase activities of neurons in autistic kids, thereby improving concentration in them. Secondly, I heard that they are very good with numbers. What avenues have you tried that have impacted positively?
Okay, so I'll take the first one. I
Okay.
like the fact that the person said, I heard.
Mm-hmm.
Just as I heard, have you discussed with your doctor?
Mm-hmm.
You know, for example, my child is allergic to coconuts.
Okay.
So if you say coconuts improve neurons, my child can't eat coconuts. So how am I going to improve the neurons? So first, before you start your child on any particular diet or any particular thing, talk with your child's doctor. Know where your child is medically before you start to ape something else that does not even have to be there at all in the first place. It's very, very important because in this part of the world we are our own doctors, and we have to let the doctors do their job. You are there as the caregiver to manage, to provide the right environment for that child to thrive, but you are not the professional in the picture. Let the professionals that have gone to school to learn give you the right advice for that child.
Brilliant. Very well
Also, the
said.
person talked
Please,
about
really
numbers.
important. Yes. Talking about numbers, I think there was the second part of that question,
Okay,
that
yes, that they are good
they
with
are good with
numbers.
numbers, and what avenues have you tried that have impacted positively?
Okay, so I think initially I said that you have to know what your child's strength is. Some kids are good with numbers, some kids are good with music, some kids are creative. So you cannot say, oh, they are good with number. Have you identified what that your child's strength is? Your child's strength might not be in numbers. I mean, we've heard about the guy that will just, take a 15 minutes ride around the city and he will draw the entire landscape.
Hmm.
That is his own strength. He's artistic. So don't say they are good with numbers and shove maths and shove addition and shove all that stuff into the child. The child will not thrive.
So
Yeah.
you have to, and I love what you said even from the very beginning, like the spectrum. And usually, no two cases are exactly the same. Each child is unique, so you need to know your child and know what works for
For your
for
child.
that child to be able to relate to the child. And the best way also is to consult a medical practitioner. Shalaka is telling you her own experience and using it as a baseline for you to then be more familiar with autism. But please do your investigation and understand your child. For those who are listening to us and who have or a child or children with autism, we're going to break now. When we come back, we continue the conversation. Actually, what we will be doing throughout is just taking your comments, questions and comments. And I dare say that no question is too silly. So please ask your question. If you want to be anonymous, you can say, but just put your name, but you can indicate that you don't want your name to be said out, because we want to talk about this. We want to take away the lies that have been said about autism, and take away the fears as well from parents or people who have been told that a child or children might have autism, so that you're able to embrace this and you're able to deal and cope better with it. Thank you. So we have
People not
12
adding their
messages.
names.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and we have first time.
Okay.
That's the problem. They don't know the protocol of putting their names. So we'll just rush very quickly. So some of the questions are similar. So we'll rush quickly through the questions just to answer them straight to the point, because you cannot be everything to them. They need some people need a session to sit down and
If
But
you if you get me back, I'll come back again.
oh, that'd be lovely.
I will come back again. I'll come back as often as you want, as long as I can get the message out there, because people are struggling.
So someone sent me a message here, said privately, not on there. Said, I read that autism is not a bad thing completely, as many notable geniuses and celebrities were autistic. For instance, Darwin, Einstein, Please enlighten the listeners on this. I've heard this as well. I would even actually pull up. The reason as well is to allay the fears of some parents that, oh, this is the end,
You
you
see,
know.
I always tell people it's good that you want to allay the fears, but what if that your child that you're looking at is not?
Okay, so can I bring that and then you bring this up as
Yes,
well? I
yes,
think it's
because your
important.
child, it comes to knowing the strength and the areas of needs.
Mm.
That child might be on the level three,
Mm.
and you want the child to be a genius.
Mhm.
Let the child function in the
At
best of
level
his
3, yeah.
capacity. Give him,
I
make
love
him
that's really
comfortable.
important. Someone actually bring this up. We have limited time, and I really want us to go through the questions. So maybe, like I mentioned, in responding to the questions,
Everyone
just
has
maybe
invited on.
very quick, and then
Yeah, my
Yeah.
refer them, and then we'll definitely talk about the WhatsApp group and the group at the end of the show.
yes.
We have about 8 minutes.
For
Okay,
the
not
next
eight
break.
minutes. Okay, 8 minutes for the next week. We come back, and then we have maybe in all we have like 12 minutes to go, and we have about 13 comments or questions to go. So we have to find the way. All right, we're coming back now.
That's right. This is your Love Music, Love Life radio station. If you just joined us, well, you've not missed too much, but you missed quite a bit, though. It's Lagos Talks 9 at 1. It's a part of Smooth Breakfast with Ayamara Essie and Kaide Baker. Get your messages in. We're taking them right about now. 0809 We're asking, reading all your questions.
Yes. We're talking on autism awareness here today, and to speak to us about this, we have Sholape Azazi, an autism advocate here in Nigeria. Now, our next question here: I have a very smart 1 year and 11 month boy that has shown signs or that have shown signs of autism. His teachers advise that we wait till he's 2 years old before assigning a specialist to examine him. Please advise what can be done to partly or fully correct this disorder. Thank you.
First, get him to a doctor. Let your doctor assess him and see what exactly is going on with him. You see signs that it might be autism, let your doctor be the one to, identify all of this.
Okay, D
Thank
comes
you.
to say that I know it's nice to go and have babies in the US and all that, but he has noticed that most of the kids come back with autism. He had a niece live here. He said I had a niece live here and travel to the US. When it was time for to take her shots, they refused some of the vaccines she took here in Nigeria and refused those vaccines. Now, 2 weeks after, she started to develop these symptoms. Now, it's now is that a coincidence? And he further says we did some surveys amongst a few and found similar cases as well.
So people attributing this to vaccines, or again, like Dee's mentioned, going abroad.
Okay, so D, the reason why you heard that the child had autism because he went abroad is because the person was educated enough to talk about it. We have issues of autism in Nigeria, but we are shaming ourselves from talking about it. Autism, I don't know about going abroad or having your children here. I have heard of children that were born here, lots of them with autism, but their parents refused to identify with autism. So
So it's also about people speaking out about
speaking
it.
out,
Thank
yes,
you.
because we don't have a lot of people want to speak out about it here.
So
We
you're
think it's
debunking that myth. It's not about having your children abroad. It's
eh,
not
eh,
scientifically proven. So
like I
please.
said, I am not a scientist, I am not a doctor, I am only
Mm,
a professional on my son's autism.
all right. Oh yes, as it says, well done, Shalakwe. We love our son. And then Chris from Ikeja says, wonderful children. I have a child, or I have a friend who specializes in TM, says Chris. Thank you so much, Chris. Ayabami says,
It's a pity that our schools claim inclusive learning, but if a parent doesn't follow up, you're just paying them offerings, I guess.
yeah, free offering. All right, so we have Omotola Thomas saying social stigma is realer than real. Very well gone, very well done to Sholakwe for raising awareness on this very important issue. I was diagnosed with Parkinson's disease 3 years ago at 35 years old, so I fully understand the issues with societal ignorance, shame, and stigma. Thank you also to Smooth 98.1 for this special on autism. Hoping we can do the same for Parkinson's disease someday. Thank you very much, Omotola. Thanks a lot for sharing with us this morning, and we have taken note of that. We'll look into it as well.
This one says, I want to appreciate Sharp as Azazi for shedding more light on this poorly understood condition. I am a parent of a child on the spectrum. and I have struggled to find the right support slash therapy for her. Where can I find adequate support here in Lagos, Nigeria, to help my child?
Thank you very much.
Okay, so we do have a parents support group on WhatsApp that I would probably be sharing towards the end of the
Program.
show.
Okay.
Yes, and then Smooth can then repeat it to on air, and then people can. But we do have a family support for parents. Going through this, you can join the group, and we can help lift one another up. You can hear people share their own experience. On the group, we have parents of 35-year-old children living with autism. So you would be able to hear them share what they've done and what has worked for them
Hmm.
in time past. And then that way, and then also we would not neuro autism and neurological disorder in it's in Luth in I can't
Smith is Idiaraba.
Idiaraba. Yes. So you can take your child there. They would assess the child. They would give you a diagnosis on the spot, and then they would refer you to the appropriate channels for treatment and management of autism.
Thank you so much. Comment here before we go on a break. Hello, Sholape. Thank you for coming out to create awareness for our children. I have started the process of relocating because the society, family, and some schools we have been refused at don't understand autism. I practically fight my child's cause every time we are out from children and adults who would bully if I'm not watching him like a hawk. I enrolled him in a special school and he's on a special diet so he doesn't get hyper. But being on the spectrum is not cheap, but I deprive myself of things for him to thrive. Thank you so much for sharing your experiences. Again, like Shalakwe mentioned, there is a support group for parents, and we would be sharing that information at the end of the show. So please stay tuned. We'll go on a break right now. When we come back, we take a few more comments and then we wrap up. Okay, so I'll just run through.
The messages.
Yeah, I was gonna ask this one. This two learning tools that for brothers and sisters, so siblings, how you train them to also, because it's one thing as a parent you understand that, but how
The
about
siblings cope
My
with it.
learning tools are not locally sourced, and I do not want to say that because I do not want to. Because someone once said to me, your son should have autism. You are rich, you can afford it. But I don't want it to be that's the message I'm portraying. That's why I keep referring to the group.
yeah,
Because on the
you can
group,
refer to the group as well
yes, because
because
on the group you have parents that they are here.
well you can say this is mine, you can say this is mine, but there are parents on, because it's important, we have to be real. You can't this is your you can't apologize for it or you can't be sorry for it. That's where you found yourself. However, they've asked you for, because this person is asking for what you, because she might also be in the position to use these learning tools. However, for those who might not, might not have the access to that, here is how you can do it. But I think it's important for you to be real. Don't apologize for who you are and what you have. It's
I
just
mean, when you're mixing with the public, you have to be very sensitive
Sensitive when you
yeah.
put out
about
the
where they're
message.
coming from, especially with this current economy.
Yes, I
Yes.
agree with you. I'm not denying that.
Yeah.
However, I'm saying that you can. They've asked for your what learning tools you use. You can't hide it. That's what you use. However, there are alternatives. It's just like saying that I use something, but there are alternatives here in Nigeria that you can work with. So it's there are private schools, but the reason I was expanding on public schools is that some people cannot afford the high-end private schools that can really cater to.
I agree.
Yeah, so
And,
that's why
and
the
that's why
government
you
has
can
to
see I have
do.
not named any school. I have not. I'm trying as much as, but I'm not here to give you any PR.
Yeah, yes. Thank you very much. We're coming back in
Just
a
two, three
minute.
minutes.
Yeah, in a minute actually. Oh, okay, it's about 1.5 minutes. But thank you so much. I mean, the response has been so great, and it's also good to see
There are a
parents
lot
who
of
are
people
coming
coming
up.
out to talk about
You
this.
know they want to speak, even the way they're like, oh, I'm here, and people who are genuinely worried, but perhaps have not even expressed their fears or expressed. But hearing from you, hopefully, would give them that boldness and that courage to face it and say, okay, there are people who are
And that's the
facing it
reason
and
why I
it's
said I
suffering.
want to come talk about it. I
Yeah.
want to keep talking about it until everyone can hear it.
Yes. Thank you very much. Okay, so this actually the person that asked the question about learning tools is your in-laws. Her name is Auntie Noni.
Oh my goodness, why did she put me on the spotlight?
Because they want to know
Because
because
she wants me to keep sharing.
yeah, you have to. I mean, for me, I was going to ask that question actually, that because that's another aspect of it.
With your
How do you
siblings.
with the siblings too? Because you said you had another baby afterwards, so sometimes it's even trying to ensure that their siblings understand and even then become almost like advocates themselves. So it's important for us to be able to, because like you said, some parents will separate them, raise this one differently,
Yeah.
not maybe you can live with your grandma. So siblings are not even able to interact or understand the condition.
Okay.
So,
You ready?
so you're coming back.
Bring us.
I should bring us in, or you want to do that?
It's okay. Bring us in.
Eh?
Bring us in.
Okay. All right, Lagos, it's the final stretch of Lagos Talks 981 for today, Wednesday, the 2nd of October. We're talking on autism awareness in Nigeria, and joining us for this conversation is an autism advocate in the person of Sholape Azazi. We've had a very informative conversation, and for the last few minutes, we're going to be taking a few more comments from WhatsApp, and then we'll share some information with you. I'll start from this one. She says, Dear Sholape, can you share the love and learning tools you use as a parent to introduce this to the brothers and sisters in the home? The one where you gather them around. That simple, effective, and proactive gesture is needed in every home and would help our society in raising peer awareness. Kids learn from each other and, more importantly, from the parents. Love from your in laws. Her name is Auntie Noni. So there's so much love coming to you this morning, and this is someone that knows you to the house. Can you please tell us what she's talking about?
Okay, so I remember the first time I went for a particular conference, and that was my challenge because I was like, okay, I have kids. I come from a large family. We have lots of children around, and this my son is the first, in the group with autism. And I remember one of his cousins first mentioned to me one time that, oh, everybody's talking and everything, and his other cousin that was just a couple months younger than him, that, oh, he's talking and saying stuff, that why is Priya not talking? And I remember I broke down in tears, and I was like, wow, I didn't know how to explain to him that this was the issue. This was back then, like a couple years ago. And then I met this very wonderful, in fact, not this, I met a couple wonderful people who then pulled me and then supported me, and then they shared a particular video with me, which I then now took the video home, gathered the old children. I told them we're going to have fun time in Auntie's house. So we gathered round, put the popcorn. They said, "What are we doing?" I said, "It's movie time. We're having a movie today." And so I gathered them all round, put all the popcorns, blankets, ice cream, all of that, and then I put on the movie. It's about autism. It's a cartoon character thing, but it talked about what autism is to their basic knowledge. Children, and then they were able to understand, oh, is that why Priya does this? I said yes. Oh, is that why Priya can't talk? I said yes. And so that from that moment they understood, oh, this is our brother, this is the issue that he's having, it's not different from us, nothing. And so you will see them, they would, when they go out, they're ready to support him. If you try to bully him, they say, oh, Auntie Shalake, somebody bullied Priya today. And I made sure that I stood up. Sometimes when they bully, you will hear them say, why did you do that to Priya? Why? I'm like, good, good. And then also another thing I do at home is inclusion.
Mm.
It's very important. Don't just speak the word, practice it. I put, when it's time to eat, I put the same meal but in a version that is acceptable for on the table with everybody eating. It's time to eat. Include him in family activities, include him in things. People are going out to see that, you will go with them. Just let him feel like he's part of the team. And it does a lot of things. It boosts the morale of the child. It makes him feel like, yes, it doesn't feel like he's less or anything. He just knows that, oh, maybe I'm doing it differently, but I can do what they're doing.
Thank
Thank you
you
very
so
much for that
much.
one.
We
This one
have
here says people need to stop stigmatizing children living with autism. Let's show the children. Let's show the children love. Even it makes them grow even better. I personally have two teenagers living with autism in my family, and they're doing very well because they're getting quality education and abroad. And what does Nigeria have in place for that?
Yes, and we touched on that earlier on in the conversation, but because of our time, and I really want Sholape to emphasize on support. A number of comments that have come, I've just tried to scan through the comments. Someone is streaming from Dublin. Thank you so much. I'm just telling you, thank you. A lot of people are thanking you for coming out to share this and being an advocate. But a question that has come up a number of times is this, and then maybe from there will lead on to support. That is, what predisposes a child to autism? So, what are the causes of autism? Another question was, can it be reversed?
So, till date, even scientists are grappling with the cause of autism. No one knows it because it shows differently in different children. So, no one knows the true cause of autism. And till date, I haven't seen anybody that said I have autism. I'm recovered from autism. You can manage the symptoms of autism and manage it so much so that you know the acceptable social skills. You can converse, you can do things, and you can hide it so much so that people just say, oh, this child is a bit weird, but they can't pinpoint. But
Mm.
because it is not a disease
Mm.
that you are saying you are finding, do you get me?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. Thank you so much.
Mhm.
All right, thank you very much for that enlightening conversation. A number of people, Cruz says thank you. He now thinks differently. He's really listened to what you've said. Now, final question, which a number of people have shared, and I'm sure for some people whose questions perhaps had not been answered in the course of this interview, they would be able to benefit from information, the platforms available, the support network available here in Nigeria.
Okay, so we as parents of kids with autism set up a community on WhatsApp. It's called Autism Parents Association, and it's also on Facebook. It's called API. That's Autism Parents Association International. So if you're looking for it in on Facebook, that is what it is called, and on WhatsApp it's called. So if you want to get on the group, you can send me a message and I would add you to the group.
Okay.
Yes, it's as
Very
easy as
simple.
that.
So again, the Facebook name, so people can search for you.
The Facebook is called Autism Parents Association International. So
Autism
API,
Parents Association
APAI.
International. And on Instagram, do you have an Instagram page?
No, sadly
All
we
right.
don't.
But Facebook is sufficient enough. Please, you heard
Yes.
it. I'll say it one more time for emphasis. Autism Parents International.
No. Autism Parents Association
Association International. Please
International.
don't let me mislead you. Autism
Autism
Parents
Parents
Association
Association
International,
International.
API.
Mhm.
Thank you so much, Sholakbe Azazi, who is also the executive director and founder of Cradle Lounge. Thank you so much indeed for speaking to us, advocate for autism, and speaking so clearly to us. I'm sure a lot of people have learned and been enlightened by the conversation this morning. Please take the conversation offline. She shared with you details on how you can be a part of that group if you'd like to join and ask questions directly. But from us this morning, it's been a fantastic run from
Yes.
6 a.m. up until now.
Yes, and like we always share with you, the fun never ends here with us at the Smooth Station, because after this comes the Genie, then the Casbah, then the Muka and the Maz, and of course, Smooth Sessions to wrap up your day.
I'm Ayomai Racing.
I'm Kaidi Baker. Good morning.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much for coming. Your son's school, they sent a message too.
Oh my
Of
goodness.
course, I knew they were trying to
Oh my
possibly.
goodness. I told them I'm not going to market anybody.
Yeah,
I
they were
told them.
marketing themselves.